Go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Trish Fountain, and I am the Education Program Manager with MIDAS, which is the Michigan Institute for Data Science. We're thrilled to have representatives from Quicken Loans here today to talk about both positions that are open at the company and kind of their hiring, both their hiring process and the work culture at Quicken. And then also we'll talk a little bit with each of them about their paths in their career so that our students can get a little bit of context about how to get from point A to point B. Where can they go from here while they're completing education to once they get in the career field? What are some of the steps and tips and tricks that might help them get to some of these sample career destinations? So first, what we're going to do is just have each of the guests introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they do at Quicken. And then we'll move on to a portion of them talking about the current positions that they have open, their work culture hiring process, and then we'll do a moderated discussion about their career paths, and then we'll finish with a Q&A. The event should last about an hour and a half, but feel free to come and go as you need. As I said, we'll send the recording out probably tomorrow to all the registrants and then students at U of M. So let's start. I'm going to have each of the Quicken Loans. We don't have an order determined, so I'll let you guys just jump in and introduce yourselves and tell us just a quick, brief description of what you do at Quicken. And I can call on you if you want. Would that be easier?
That might be easier just so we don't all talk over one another.
Let's do that. So let's start with Colin.
Yeah, my name's Colin. I graduated from U of M in 2015, and then I did the SUGS program in engineering, so finished my master's in 2016. And I'm a machine learning engineer at Quicken Loans in the data science group. And I work on a bunch of different stuff there. I work on, developing some machine learning models, deploying some machine learning models, working on cloud infrastructures for our data science platforms, and kind of looking for opportunities to make our business better. So before my time at Quicken Loans, again, I did my undergrad and master's in mechanical engineering, and then I was working in the aerospace industry for a little while, doing controls type stuff, started to get into data science and machine learning, and then made my way over to Quicken Loans 1 year ago. So since I've been there, I've gotten to work on a ton of really crazy different things. The area I work in works a lot with natural language processing. So if anyone's interested in that, I've got a lot of info on that. We have, hundreds of thousands of calls with clients every single day at Quicken Loans. And there's a lot of information for us to mine there. So it's a really exciting, technical field to work in. And I've gotten tons of opportunities to do really cool stuff during my time at Quicken Loans. Trish, I think you're muted.
Let's go next to Sarah Greenwood.
Hi guys, my name is Sarah. I am a data scientist at Quicken Loans. I've been at Quicken for about 1.5 years. I graduated also from the University of Michigan in 2015. I took 2.5 years off and I worked at a small startup in Baltimore. It was a super small healthcare startup working on, think of like Netflix meets the Magic School Bus for medical software, so you can sit and explain things to patients. And I got to do a lot of stuff that was less data science-y and more analyst-y while I was there, which was super fun. Then I decided to go back to school. I went to Northwestern and graduated from their Masters of Science and Analytics program, and then started at Quicken Loans. While I was in the during my master's, I also had an internship at Ford on their machine learning team, working on their smart mobility team. Also, just to talk similarly to Colin, while I was at Michigan, I started as a theoretical math major, but I pivoted to informatics and studied data mining and information analysis, which I no longer think is a concentration. I also minored in Spanish and was part of the residential college, if you guys are familiar. And then, yeah, I think that covers most of it. Oh, and while I'm at Quicken, I work in the client opportunities space. I get to develop models. I work pretty closely with our business partners, talking about how we can use models to create business value. which is really awesome and fun. Quicken as a whole makes around 1 million phone calls a day, and my job is to make sure that we're always working the right person at the right time through the right method. I think it's super fun. And so I'll pass this on to the next folk.
Having trouble unmuting myself, sorry. Thank you, Sarah. And how about the other Sarah?
All right, so hi guys, my name is Sarah Tarraf. I have been with Quicken Loans for about a year, and what I do there is I lead the group of teams that Sarah actually referred to, our client opportunities teams. So these are all of the data science teams that we have that support identifying individuals in the population who have a high propensity to engage with us. Reaching out to them with the right marketing materials and the right messaging at the right time through the right channels, and then all the way through to figuring out how to contact them, when to contact them, making sure that we're efficiently reaching out to and engaging with our clients. So we do a ton of data science, a ton of modeling in support of that. It's really cool stuff, and it's really exciting to help sort of guide and shape the direction that we take with that. Before I came to Quicken, I worked in the consulting space. So probably about 10 years leading different data science and analytics teams across a number of different industries.
Great, thank you. And let's go to Kartik.
All right, hey guys. My name is Kartik. I did not go to the University of Michigan. I actually went to Indiana University. I graduated in 2016 with a degree in informatics, like Sarah Greenwood. I had an internship at Quicken Loans when I was a junior, and that kind of led to a full-time job. So Quicken Loans is my first job outside college. I started on the BI team as a SQL data engineer, and then slowly transitioned over into the data science team. My current role is a big data engineer, but I want you guys to know that your title doesn't really matter at Quicken Loans. Everyone's very cross-functional. I'm doing some machine learning model deployment. I'm building data pipelines for our models. I'm kind of helping with some analysis, but a data engineer is supposed to know how to maintain infrastructure for a model, how to store data efficiently for a model, and how to get the data to be scored in a machine learning model. I also work in the client opportunities group, like Sarah and Sarah. And yeah, I've been with Quicken for 4 years now. Started off as an intern, really liked it, and I've stuck around.
Great,
That's
thank
all.
you. Let's go to James next.
Hello, I'm James Carson. I'm a director of data science, like Sarah and Anil. Been with the company for about 6.5 years. Started out as a data analyst. My background actually before that is a little bit weird. I went to Michigan, go blue, graduated with a degree in English, believe it or not. Minor political science. Then I went to graduate school where I studied public policy over at Michigan State, which is where I kind of fell in love with econometrics and economics. So that was my concentration there. I worked in I worked on political campaigns afterwards. And then I had an opportunity to move to London and go to London School of Economics, where I got another master's in economics. Started out as a data analyst right after that at a company called Amrock, a sister company of Quicken Loans. And then from there, did a lot of modeling, and then got into leadership about a little over 2 years after that. Started leading a team that did a lot of financial modeling for capital markets at Quicken Loans. And that kind of grew into this larger space that I lead now, which we call quantitative intelligence. And we're like the kind of mathematical, the mathematician group that quantifies and prescribes ways to minimize different types of risk in our business, from the risk that's introduced from originating loans to managing our margin more intelligently, and also helping clients helping clients avoid foreclosure, also doing a lot of default risk modeling, and so that's kind of my world.
Thank you. And we'll finish up with Anil.
Hey, so I'm Anil Pundhir, and I also lead a few teams in our data science area. And I've been with Quicken for more than 10 years now, so I won't go too far back. So I have pretty much a software background. Did my master's in computer applications, and then have been doing developing software applications as a software engineer or architect. And I joined Quicken Loans as a software engineer. Worked on many applications in our CRM space, and then really got passionate about our communication space, building communication software tools like texting, dialing, those kind of things with open source software. And from there, I moved to data science in the same domain in communication, but in more conversational data space. And started this area here, which focuses on NLP opportunities, whether it's building chatbots or virtual assistants to automate the business-to-business communication using NLP products, or by digging into many millions of phone calls that we make that Sarah mentioned with smart folks like Colin, who really dig into this stuff and make millions of dollars for Quicken. So
Perfect. Thank you all. So I'd like to turn our attention to the positions and kind of the hiring process at Quicken. So I'm hoping to start first with just an overview of the positions that you currently have open for kind of in the data science space. And if you could just talk a little bit about what each of those positions are, what the qualifications for hiring are, and then kind of what's maybe some current projects that you're working on, or what some of the kind of detailed work that students might be, or new employees might be doing would be for each of those positions.
So I guess I can tackle at least the first part. So for any of the major roles, like the technical roles, data scientist, machine learning engineer, big data engineer, the process is very similar. So essentially it's an initial screening with a recruiter. It's pretty much just about like the basic experience, some skills, but also to make sure that people are a cultural fit. And by that, I mean like the organizational culture of Quicken Loans, we take very seriously. And so from there, it goes to a first round virtual interview, which is kind of a range of more of like experience-based questions, but it also gets pretty technical. And so we have kind of a rotating list of team members who attend those interviews. And essentially it's going pretty deep on a lot of technical topics, from object-oriented programming to more like critical thinking types of things. And then just some of the basics of, for a data scientist, for example, what is a hyperparameter? What is hyperparameter tuning? What is like one-hot encoding? Basic things that a data scientist does. And then, well, when we were in the office, we would have a face-to-face interview, which goes even deeper than that. There's a case study which we hand out beforehand, standardized for each of those 3 technical roles. And then, you know, the candidate will go over their answer, or like their presentation of the problem that they're solving. And then we spend pretty much an hour on that, just going really deep to make sure that the candidate has like the proficiency to do the job and can add value. And then the next half is just more of a soft skill type of thing, like, you know, is the person enjoyable to work with? Talking about our culture, did they research Quicken Loans beforehand, and stuff like that. Just so this way we get a good balance of, does this person fit like the values of our company culture, and then, you know, are they, I guess, more than proficient on the technical side.
So you've talked, I think you've said the word culture and organizational culture and work culture quite a bit. It sounds like that's an important part of the hiring process, but then also central to maybe your daily work experience. Can I ask a few of you just to talk a little bit about what that work culture is, how you would define it, and then how you see it play out in the work that you do and in your experience at Quicken.
I can jump in and take that. As someone that is a bit newer to Quicken Loans, I think hearing about the culture initially when I came in and when I interviewed, in a way that can feel a little intimidating because it feels like this big nebulous thing. But it is so late in the organization, it becomes a almost something that makes you feel very included and welcomed, and it almost becomes sort of a shorthand for connecting with people and sort of advancing work. Like I think a lot of people know about the Quicken Loans isms, which are basically just sort of a series of philosophies that we believe in. And it becomes something that allows you to really understand and quickly learn what the organization's about. So learn sort of what is important to us, how we prioritize things, how we solve problems. And in doing that, it helps you understand kind of how to navigate through the organization, but it also helps you connect with people. And kind of when you run into a challenge or when you run into a place where you're sort of not sure where to go next, it becomes sort of a guidepost to be able to say, okay, well, I'm out this thing that I think is going wrong, but I shouldn't feel worried because it's about the what, it's not about the who, and sort of things like that. So for me, it was something that initially it was like, okay, what's this all about? Like we talk about the culture a lot, but because it is so lived, it made me feel immediately like, okay, I kind of know what these people are about. I know what this company is about, and I can navigate through it.
Is that part of the training process when you go in, and is there an orientation process that teaches you those Quicken Loanisms, whatever you said it was, isms?
Yeah, so posted a link in the chat that goes through them in pretty
Perfect.
in detail. So I think these are things that to me speak to the integrity of the organization, and there's something that every person can like trust fall. So one of my first experience at Quicken Loans was, I think I was 2 weeks in. I had done some analysis. I presented it to the CEO of Amrock in his big fancy office, and he was arguing with me. He was pushing back on what I was talking about, and then I think I just instinctively went like, "No, you're wrong," and we had a discussion about like the analysis that I had done, and at the end of it, after we hashed it out and like just talked, on the merits of the analysis, he goes, "You know what? You're right." And that to me, that was the moment where like I realized we don't just talk about culture, like people live it at every level of the organization. So have a look at this. I think this applies to not just Quicken Loans, but to anybody who wants to kind of solidify culture wherever.
And just like one kind of funny thing about how seriously we take it, like our first day in the office or like your day of orientation, you get an actual bound book that's like, here are isms, here are stories about them. And then I think when we were in the office, I think it's like once a month, once a quarter, something like that. They actually have an entire day dedicated to isms for new hires. And you get like everyone who's hired into Quicken Loans or into our family of companies has to take an entire day to go learn about the values of our company. And then by the end, you kind of like pick your favorites. Like some of them are like, you got to take the roast out of the oven, which like as someone who's super detail oriented, like I need to remind myself, like I have to take the roast out of the oven. And they're just like good things that when you're in conversations, when you're like deep in the weeds of numbers, which happens a lot when you're doing the type of work that we are, it's a good North Star to keep as we like continue to work. So it's something that's really important to us.
That's fantastic. I want to go back to something, I think it was Kartik that said something about like you're cross-functional, you kind of develop skills. I'm wondering how you go about kind of moving from one role to another, or developing skill sets outside of what's kind of defined in your position. Is there growth opportunity that's kind of natural at Quicken, or is it something that you're kind of plugged into a position and then if you just want to kind of broaden your skills, you can do that? I guess I'm just curious about how professional development and skill building and growth opportunities present themselves in the company.
Sure, Trish, I'll take that. So kind of rounding back onto the culture, discussion that we've just had. The Quicken Loans culture is that we have a flat organization, and if you want to do something, you just ask. Like, hey, I'm super passionate about doing this analysis right there, even though I'm not super skilled at it. Can I shadow someone? Shadowing is a big concept, which basically means that, okay, I know I have a data scientist out there who's super skilled, and I want to grow my skills in data science. I'm just going to borrow some time maybe every week with this person and just shadow him, sit in his shadows and see what he does, absorb knowledge. And everyone is super like welcoming in Quicken Loans, and everyone will like allow you to meet with them, to shadow them, to learn from them. Another thing that we have is Hack Week, which is a week in a whole release where you can work on whatever passion projects you want. I know Anil is a big Hack Week point, you know, so he can talk about this after me. But essentially in Hack Week, you can work on whatever project you want, and you can grow those skills that you are passionate about growing. Another thing is that we have technical trainings out there. So if you want to transition into a technical role, you take these trainings, and Quicken Loans will be welcoming of your career path, your potential career path, and like kind of help you grow in that path. A personal example is that I was a SQL engineer, and I was really passionate about data science. I did some learning by myself, and I had the opportunities to get involved in some data science projects. And that led me to transition over into a data science role. So Quicken Loans is super cross-functional. It has a lot of opportunities if you can just grab them to grow your skills.
Perfect. Can someone address kind of the collaborative environment at Quicken and how is it isolated work? Are there teams? What are the size of the teams? With this kind of flat structure, do you collaborate across teams frequently, or do you kind of develop your insular community of these are the people that I typically kind of collaborate and work with closely?
I can grab this one. Honestly, the structure of the teams at Quicken was a large reason why I chose to come to Quicken. So our teams are pretty small. That being said, our teams across teams were incredibly collaborative. So our teams themselves, like, usually are self-sufficient. Like, I feel really lucky because on my team, as a data scientist, I have a software engineer who supports me. I have a big data engineer who supports me. I also have an analyst who supports me, and then a product owner, a business analyst, and a team leader. And so we're set in these very small, nimble pods. So instead of like calling over a fence and being like, hi, I have this data request, when we were in the office, I literally would stand up and peer over my desk and be like, hi, like, can you help me with this? And I think that allows our company to move much more nimbly and efficiently. That being said, like Sarah, who leads the client opportunity space, I think you have a lot of teams under you now. Is it like 5 or 6?
6, yeah.
6 teams. And sometimes it feels like we're one big team. We share resources, we collaborate across each other, we see how some models can work into other models, and it's just very collaborative. And then even outside of our data science departments, like, we're constantly collaborating with business partners, constantly getting requirements from them, seeing how we can move the needle forward. We also have an entire business analytics team within Quicken that, like, we have to work very closely with, because we may be looking at things from a data science view, but that may not exactly be how the business is looking at it from a business view. And so it's a very much an open door policy, but like, you have everything you need close by to get the work you need done.
Perfect. So before we move on to the kind of career building and personal questions about your career paths, I want to just ask a couple more questions about the hiring timeline, so that we can get a sense of when students should start looking, when students should start applying. And I guess I'm wondering if there's a typical cycle, like is it kind of a rolling basis that Quicken hires, or are there specific months that you do recruiting and hiring? And then about how far in advance should students plan to kind of be hired before they would graduate or something like that?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, hiring pretty much has been going around all throughout the year. At the same time, we are now getting into some kind of cadence of quarterly based. So for example, we have these goals on achieving these milestones, we just think about what do we need in terms of, resources, we project that, quarterly now. But these roles are available pretty much all the time if you look into our career site. And then we are adding a little bit more structurally now, like on a quarterly basis. In the data science space, however, I think we have been hiring for our time I have been here in specific data science. So machine learning engineers, data scientists, data analysts, I think these positions are always there, and we are not able to actually have enough people. So they're always positioned. At the same time, we have kept some of these positions evergreen. So if you find the right candidate, we are going to make a position for that candidate as well.
Good to know.
Yeah, the other angle to that is like our recruiters get tons of resumes, and you can imagine it ebbs and flows with the start and end of like the school cycle. So believe it or not, it's like we have intern interviews in November before their starting period in May or June. So like the earlier, if you're looking for an internship, the earlier you can apply, the better. And also like sometimes off-cycle applications get more views just because there are less of them.
Okay, so let's transition now to talking a little bit about your individual paths and experiences, kind of moving through your career. And we've already talked a little bit about how you got to where you are today. And a little bit about what you love and about your jobs. I'm curious if you could, if a couple of you could just kind of go into a little bit more detail about what you love about your current job, what you don't love. I think sometimes that's provides even more insight. And then I'm curious about what work balance looks like for you at Quicken. And I know that's probably a little different right now, but curious and kind of in normal times, what work balance looks and feels like.
I can jump in and talk about, let's see, what I love about my job, what I don't love, and what balance looks like. I'll start with balance, because I will say, coming from, and maybe this is kind of helpful information as like some of the students try to think about what their paths are, coming from a consulting career to working within an organization, the work-life balance cannot beat working within an organization versus consulting and having clients in a number of organizations. So I feel like even in kind of these crazy times, and even when things are at their busiest, I feel like I get amazing balance here, which I very much appreciate. Going into what I love, I just think it's very exciting to be leading such smart and empowered people. I think Sarah touched on it really well when you've got teams that are relatively self-sufficient, and they drive forward and they're smart and they're full of amazing people who collaborate and who want to make an impact. But then I have the advantage of being able to kind of connect the dots and kind of join people together that are smart and are going to just get things done. And so all I have to do is kind of say, hey, here's an opportunity here. Maybe like, let's talk about this. Let me connect this person and that person. And the impact that gets made is just, it's mind blowing. It's so exciting to see. So for me, that's probably the thing I love the most. I feel like every day there is something where I'm like, oh, wow, we just tied these threads and now we're going off in this direction to help on this thing. And people are off and running and it's really exciting. I will say though, for me, that's probably the thing. I wouldn't say I dislike it, but it's like there's so much and there's so many areas of the business we can impact and there's so much passion and energy to do it, that it's just the expression about like not like eating the elephant in one bite. Like sometimes you just get so excited and you want to do so many things. So trying to like prioritize that and sort of temper that enthusiasm and excitement and not just go full bore at every single problem is something that, you know, it can be a challenge sometimes.
I've never heard that, and I'm stealing that phrase for our next.
Well, there you go.
Yep, I love it. Anybody else anybody else have answers for those topics? What you love, what you don't love, and what your work-life balance looks like.
So when I was my first interview with the company, I dropped a line that I had prepared that it was true, but it was kind of like a sales pitch for myself. I said, like, I want to go to a place where I want to work at a place where I don't fear Mondays and look forward to Fridays. And that's literally what I found. Like, nobody says, oh, I got a case of the Mondays, or like, hey, woohoo, it's Friday. Like, that just means you can't wait for the times when you're not working. Because like this is also like a kind of a family that we work with. So with that said, like, you get a chance to actually pursue things that you are passionate about, and your leader's job is actually to get out of your way and help you get there. So for example, I started out as a data analyst. I was working at Amrock, and yeah, it was a good like postgraduate school job. But I was really interested in capital markets. I was really interested in like finance and like applying the things that I learned in school. So I had the freedom to network, to like voice what I was passionate about to my leaders, and they helped me find like the right position for me. If any of my team members who are working on like the things that we work on, and they say, hey, I'm tired of working on hedge modeling for capital markets, and I'm really interested in conversational analytics, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to have a conversation with Anil and say, you know, this is where this person's passion is. Can you use them? And so there's a choose your own adventure culture at Quicken Loans, where you can be empowered to pursue what you're actually passionate about, and no one is really going to tell you, no, you have to do this.
I can give from a non-director perspective that might be helpful for some of the people on the call. So I describe working at Quicken as working at a fully funded startup. I loved my time at startups. I loved the sense of urgency and excitement that people had, but I worked 60-hour weeks. Like, that was really normal. I know every team within Quicken is different, but my team's core hours are 10 to 4. Like, that is when we need to be on the computer. You're expected to get your work done that week, but like Quicken recognizes that life happens. Like, if I need to run and do that, I can come back and finish my work later. Like, it's no big deal. That kind of energy and values of like, you know what, like, you aren't your job, makes coming to work like that much more exciting. Like, I feel very recharged when I do the type of work that I do. And then in addition to that, I think like, so my favorite thing is the excitement. It's honestly, like, it sounds terrible, but like, it's hard to pick a least favorite thing. Like, my least favorite thing probably echoes Sarah in that, like, sometimes the things that I really am passionate about don't get prioritized, but then I have another really cool project to work on, and then I'll get to it later. It's not the end of the world. But it's a really fun place to work. Like, I can't echo that enough. I have never been somewhere that I'm genuinely excited to come to work on Monday. It's kind of crazy.
So I'm going to quickly echo what Sarah just mentioned about startups. My entire team is kind of made from startups. We kind of briefly talked about hack weeks. So in my previous job at Quicken, I reached out to our CIO and said that, hey, give me $500,000 in 6 months, and I will do this cool thing, which is going to add so much business value and those kind of things. And it just took half an hour of quick discussion, and she was like, go ahead, do it. So I think this is kind of a startup culture that we are, I think that's built the entire company. We have, I think we may have started from maybe a couple of companies like many years ago, and we have so many RHI companies now because we have this mindset about trying something and then going with full force. That's why I feel like, I stayed here 10 years, and I never stayed more than 5 years before this job because I'm able to do things that are passionate, that I'm passionate about. And it doesn't feel like, so work doesn't feel like work, and Mondays don't feel like, Mondays that sometimes feel like in other jobs.
Oh, and one more thing that I forgot to mention that I don't like. I'm not a big fan of the coffee in our building.
What is it?
I'm not a big fan of our coffee in the building.
Oh, yeah.
That's
no,
that's the
that's
low
very
point.
But we have Slurpees and like really good tea. So like straight up popcorn.
So yeah, that reminds me of something that I forgot to mention. What I don't like about sometimes, because we are a fast-paced company, so I sometimes talk to my wife who works for a company which is very, very structured. It's a global company, so they have rules and policies. Sometimes I feel like we need a little bit of that because sometimes we walk too fast, and not everybody wants to run that fast. But I think it's a good balance. We need to sometimes think about before we, bring in new changes that our people, all right, understanding of, with all those changes happening. But again, as I said, we are a company that is never going to be at rest. We are always going to be at our toes, which is our culture. So
I'd like to turn or kind of shift the conversation to skill building. And I think both from the perspective of, we talked a little bit about transitioning and kind of learning and shadowing at Quicken and how it's easy to do that. But both from your perspective, how you continue to skill build within your position, and then also reflecting on what are some of the things that were really beneficial to you and are beneficial to you in your current position that maybe weren't academic or curricularly based. Were there internships, were there events, were there extracurricular opportunities, student organizations, anything that you can kind of think of, both in terms of technical skills and non-technical skills that you need at Quicken or that you need in your position that weren't taught in the classroom?
One thing I can talk about is a new Rock Academy that we just created. So we used to have tuition reimbursements, but that I don't have the numbers, but I don't think we are maybe at even 20% capacity of people using or leveraging that. So we started a Rock Academy. I think I'm saying it right. It's a Rock Academy where you, if you are not in a technical role, or you want to pursue a degree, you can just apply there. And a lot of these courses or degrees you can take for free. And that's pretty huge because we generally, I think the number one showstopper for anybody to learn something is finding the time and money. And we try to solve for both. As far as the non-technical stuff concerned, we have programs like Red Door where you want to, let's say, move to the next, you want to be leader of leaders, or you want to learn about what other business areas are doing. And there we partner somebody with another leader from business or another company. So you can learn more and grow there. And sometimes you may be paired up with somebody who's not technical at all. So you'll be learning other opportunities which you may not be doing in your job right now.
Can anybody?
Yeah, and
go ahead.
sorry. So yeah, there's a lot of on-the-job learning that I've been doing recently. A lot of that kind of depends on, what seems important at the time, what's important to the team, and data science is crazy, right? There's so many sides of it. I think in a lot of ways it's a lot less well-defined than some other, technical careers, something like software development. You kind of know what you need to know, and eventually you'll kind of specialize and you focus more on some things. But in data science, it doesn't quite happen that same way. So for a lot of careers and positions, machine learning engineer, data scientist, there's so many sides to that. And I know, coming out of school, I was interested in data science. I wasn't practicing it right when I came out of school. So I was kind of wondering over the course of my previous job, how do I get there? If that's somewhere I want to go, what do I need to do in order to get there? And it's not easy. A lot of the best way to do it is basically just pick some part of it and focus on it and master that part of your craft, because there's no way you're going to be able to become an expert at every single part of data science. If we're talking about building models, doing data analysis, deploying models, creating, it goes all the way into software and everything, where you're creating web apps to deploy these models and everything. It's just, there's entire careers worth of work and learning. So I would say don't focus too much on learning everything. Just pick something and get really good at it, and then ride that to the next thing, and then learn that next thing really well. And that's kind of the approach I've taken, and it's worked pretty well for me.
I'd also like to echo, sorry, Kartik, you can go. I'll start.
No, that's fine, Sarah, you go ahead.
I just want to echo like what Colin said about learning the next thing. I think the thing that has helped me the most is you learn like a set skill in school. Like I learned math and I learned certain coding languages. Like a lot of my languages were R, which probably speaks to a lot of the people here. And like Quicken is very focused on Python, and there may be things that I don't know, but I never say I don't know, I can't do it. I say I don't know, I want to learn. And that just makes you more, and the more you're comfortable with like admitting, I don't know this, but I know I have the skills to learn how to do it, is the like, just, it's like the philosophy I live by. During my master's, I was fortunate enough to have both my internship at Ford, but then also I had 2 different consulting projects that I did for some large companies in the US. And honestly, the more time I practice explaining data science topics to non-data science people, the better. Like that is, if you can do that and you can do it well, you are indispensable to every data science organization. So like, I sometimes try and explain things to like my mother who's in medicine, just to like see if I can get her to understand a topic that she's not used to thinking about at all. I think like if you have chances to practice it, like take everything you can, because while you're in school, like that's your time to fail and learn how to learn, and you'll end up where you want to be if you focus on those things. Kartik, now you can go. I tag you.
Thanks, Sarah. So yeah, I just want to say one thing. I don't have my master's degree right now, and like a lot of the data science that I'm doing right now, it's all self-taught. So I'm getting my master's degree currently. I don't have it yet, but one piece of advice that I would give is that always have an open mind. Like if an opportunity is presented in front of you, always like be open to learning, and always be asking questions like, okay, I don't know how to do this. How can I do that? And it's great to like learn a lot of theory in school, but a lot of your knowledge comes with practicing and doing. And there's a lot of great resources out there, like Kaggle. They have some data sets that you can like practice your skills on, and that will really prepare you well for what's happening in the real world. So yeah, have an open mind, always be open to asking questions, and like, if you have an opportunity to do something, just grab it and do it.
And in addition to that, so we have tuition reimbursement for people who want to go back to school. It used to be retroactive, but now it's actually proactive. We'll pay the tuition up front, provided you graduate with certain grades. We have a conference and like education budget for each team member each year, which I can't keep track. Is it like $3,000 or something like that? So back when we were in the office, we sent people around the country to conferences. In fact, right now there's a Databricks conference on Spark. If you guys are interested, it's free, it's online. So I have some team members attending that. Sometimes we bring in companies like Databricks to do like on-site training. We have books. If team members ask me to order a book, just order it. So that's another cool thing. The other thing that I think a lot of team members are prepared for is actually more on the soft skills types of things. So like, the art of the art of selling your idea, the art of presenting to a business client, of simplifying down something really complex into a way that like our senior leaders can understand and then invest in. So I think those are the things that tend to be, from what I've seen, like I think the steeper learning curve. But we have a lot of like trainings for that stuff as well. Like we have a whole group called The Journey that puts on team building activities. We have like leadership, recurring trainings to help people build these types of skills that you definitely aren't going to learn in a data science program.
Fantastic. I'm going to take it one step further before we open it up for Q&A and kind of ask you to synthesize what we just talked about into advice. So if a student were interested in getting an internship or a position at Quicken Loans, what are the actionable things that they should do other than the class and get good grades and review our philosophies link on Quicken?
Yeah, as I said in like my previous spiel, I think a candidate really stands out to me if you've actually practiced your skills. So if there's a data set out there and it's a topic that you're really passionate about, and you've done some analysis, or you've built a model out there, that'll really like stand out to me. Apart from what you've learned in school, you've actually gone and taken the effort to apply your skills, and that would really like stand out. So if you have the time, if you have the passion, if you have a topic that you're interested in, I know right now a lot of projects are going on regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. So if there's something that you're passionate about, just go ahead, find the data set and try to practice your skills. That will really build up your value.
To kind of jump in on that, Kartik, I think that's a really good way to demonstrate that you have both a curiosity, which I think is so important, and an ability to touch one of the things that James and Sarah mentioned, just the ability to explain why something matters. Like you're doing, as a data scientist, you're doing a lot of kind of in-depth work, digging, trying to understand things, trying to predict things. If you can link that to why something matters and get people interested in it, you've sold your idea. And you've shown that you can make people care. So if you have a project that you've done that you're particularly passionate about, that you can kind of link the what you did to the impact or the why or the what it enabled. And if you don't have that, like Kartik said, there's so many data sets available. There's so many ways to dig into information that's out there. There's so many problems that there's data available to solve. Try it out and give yourself something to talk about, because I think nothing beats a great story about something that you've done in an interview.
Hey guys, just a heads up. I had to drop, but I have to drop now. But it was nice meeting you, Trisha, and see you next time.
Sounds great.
One thing that just like to be aware of when I'm having interviews with people, like I always want to know why you made decisions, not the decisions you made. Like data science is just this crazy path where you hit a fork in the road and like, why'd you pick right? Why didn't you pick left? Like what things did you explore? The same thing goes for machine learning engineering and big data engineering. Like you make decisions that you have to stick with and you have to stand by. We have to defend those amongst our peers all the time. We have to defend those amongst our business partners all the time. And I just want to make sure that when I'm interviewing someone that they are exercising that level of critical thinking that we expect every day.
Yep.
So just like be prepared. Like if it's on your resume, it's fair game. Like I will ask about it.
So I was going to mention for those of you on the call, if you're looking for an easy opportunity, or not an easy opportunity, but a readily available opportunity to kind of implement the type of project that the Sarahs and a couple others have been talking about. We will be hosting in late July, mid to late July, from July 20th to the 23rd, a Quicken Loans data challenge. So this is exactly an opportunity for you to be able to kind of work with real world data sets from Quicken and both build your resume, kind of get some real world experience, but at the same time, get some familiarity with the type of data that they're working with. And I think it's just a nice way for you to see what those types of projects and what that type of information might look like for you.
Yeah,
so
we're also looking for a little revenge because the last data challenge, you guys just mopped the floor with us. So just throwing that out there.
One more thing.
He says with his Michigan logo in the background, like you're proud that they beat you a little bit.
One more thing to keep in mind, like on your resume, make sure your GitHub is there. Make sure that your GitHub is clean. Like that is the first thing I look at before I read anything else. We value that a lot. Quicken Loans is a technology company first, and we treat ourselves as such. So being able to do that is very important to us.
Yeah, I had a couple other pieces of advice. If you're applying for any role, research the company beforehand. Definitely. Don't recite answers. Like Sarah said, we like genuine sorts of like critical thinking. For example, I remember Sarah Greenwood's interview. It was brutal. Really, she nailed it. But
I can tell everyone that Quicken Loans' technical interview was like, I was in final rounds at like Spotify and all of these other places, and like the statistical questions, like sitting in a room with a bunch of PhD statistics students just like asking me questions. I was like, I had never been in an interview like that, and James got to watch the whole thing.
We had one of our team members wrote the formula for the variance inflation factor, but wrote it backwards so that higher numbers were better and lower numbers were worse. And like, but Sarah, like, she stared at it and was like, no, wait, this means that higher numbers are better. So like, you know, it's like we're in school, we're taught to recite like, this is the formula for this, like for the but like we'll play around and try to see what people are thinking. But also like we really value honesty, so don't admit what you don't know. And like Sarah Greenwood said, if you have something on your resume, we're going to ask about it. So if you really don't know Spark, or maybe you know it a little bit, don't put it on your resume as something that you're proficient in.
Yeah, for example, like I don't have a ton of experience with time series modeling, and I remember James asked me a bunch of questions about time series modeling, and I was like, I honestly don't know. Like, this is something that I don't know, but I know I have the skills to figure it out. But I can't answer the questions you're asking, and it's, yeah, I got a job, it's fine. But it's better to admit what you don't know than mess up and act with false confidence.
Perfect. Well, we're coming up on an hour, so I want to open it up for a Q&A in just a few minutes. But what I want to just talk really quickly about a couple of things. So one is to circle back to the data challenge. We'll be sending information about the data challenge to our attendees today first. We'll be opening it up because we're only accepting 10 students into the challenge that will be competing against 10 Quicken Loan data scientists. So we'll send that out to our registrants and attendees for today's event. And then if we have space for more participants, we'll open it up to the other data science students at U of M. So that's step one. So be looking, checking your email for that link. We'll have more information about the data challenge as well as a registration form for you to complete in the next couple of weeks. Then the second thing is, since James mentioned Spark and we're talking about some other opportunities, I did want to let you know that we did our first training with Databricks as a short workshop or a brief workshop on Apache Spark. We'll be doing that workshop again, so keep your eyes open, probably late August, early September, around the start of the school year. And then we'll be doing a deep dive, probably half-day workshop in the middle of first semester, so late September, mid-October. So you have a chance to work with Databricks directly and develop some skills and learn that tool. So keep your eyes on your email. Don't ignore me just yet. I'll keep trying to send you some opportunities for learning and growth and prizes, experience and prizes. All right, so let's turn it to a Q&A. We have a couple of functions at the bottom of your screen. You have the Q&A button if you want to use that to type in a question. We'll read the question aloud and have the panelists address it. If you also are interested in raising your hand and being unmuted and asking it live, you're more than welcome to use that function as well. So we'll take a few minutes now for Q&A.
It looks like we've already got a first question through, so this is perfect. So we've got a first question from Martin. What are some resources, books, websites, certifications that can aid with the technical interview and also data science slash, forgive me for not knowing what ML stands for in general?
Machine learning, yeah.
Machine learning, ha.
Our brains are fried.
I mean, honestly, like when I was learning data science, I looked at Kaggle a lot. I don't anymore, but I think that's a very good place to start. And you can see some of the like starred repositories and see like some good examples of what people use if you want to get started there. I also subscribe to Data Science Weekly, which is one of my favorite things that comes into my inbox every week. I think it's some data scientists who compile some of their favorite like published works or like Medium posts or all of the things that different people in the data sciences community are putting out. They also like have various job postings and like internships available or like things you should be aware of, which is pretty fun. I also know a few data scientists at Quicken Loans who have some like Twitter alerts set up. So if like something new or something important is published, they keep an eye on that. One of my roommate from grad school is also like very involved in research at Apple, and she's very focused on she has like alerts come to her computer every time a new paper in her space is published through Google Scholar. So just like pick an area you're interested in. Like you'll never be able to read everything or stay up to date on everything, but if you're really interested in convolutional neural nets, like you should probably know more than the basic, but you should know what's like new and on the horizon and kind of continue to build your knowledge in that area. That's kind of what I recommend.
I would also recommend, and I don't know, if you're looking for jobs, you probably already have like your LinkedIn set up, but I would set up like a LinkedIn page, and there's like prominent speakers, scholars, thinkers in the space that are fairly high up in big organizations, like the chief decision scientist at Google. She's amazing, and she posts really cool things that kind of straddle the line between technical and sort of philosophical about the field, where it's going, what you need to think about, what you need to focus on. I would take advantage of those resources too, because then you can become conversant in how people are using data science in business, which I think will make you really stand out in interviews.
Yeah, I would also say, like Sarah said, it's important to kind of find a focus area just in order to like make it attackable. You know, it's such a broad field that you can't just go after the whole thing. So, you know, like just looking on archive for all the papers that came out is unlikely to get you very far. However, something like just look for podcasts, see what you like, and I guess work from there, you know, see where it takes you, see what road those take you down, and you'll start learning what you're interested in and what you know a little bit about, and then you can build on that as a, you know, place of strength.
I also think it's like what is like cool and sexy in data science may not be the thing that interests you the most. Like everyone is talking about, like, I'm not a huge deep learning fan. I think it like has its power and it has its uses, but because I like being more on the business side of things, like deep learning isn't always the answer. And I think there's no shame in just like being like, hey, I'm a total nerd and I nerd out about this thing that not everyone else is. So own it, just be open with that. Which is like a weird thing to say, but I think it's important.
Any other questions? Now's your time. All right, we had one come in. It says, following up with the data science machine learning resources question, could the panelists elaborate on how important knowing the theory and math is from industry point of view? So in particular for applied data science and machine learning positions.
we like math. Like we're like, our data scientists are they have a strong foundation in math. We do have people who have like a variety of backgrounds. Like we have a PhD in physics, but like these are all people who can approach problems with a solid statistical background. So do I need to like derive things on a daily basis in my day-to-day? Absolutely not. But because I understand the stats, I understand like more of the intuition behind how I'm tuning models and the systems they're working within. So like we will ask in interviews, we will ask like hard statistical questions, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's part of our day-to-day. I know that some teams, like James's team, is much more stats heavy, I think, than a lot of other teams. But it like you can find your niche, but it's important to have that foundation, and then you kind of can go from there.
The next question is, do students need a basic understanding of finance to succeed as a data scientist at Quicken Loans?
So I can take this one since my team does a lot of financial stuff. It depends. It depends on the domain that you're in. For example, on any of my teams, you'll need to know how the bond market works. You'll need to know how mortgage-backed securities are traded. What is the secondary mortgage market? How do bonds themselves work from yields and the types of ways that we execute loans into different mortgage-backed securities. Some of the regulations behind that. We also do a lot of like financial forecasting for our treasury teams. So that's understanding like both the profit and loss of a loan, but also like liquidity needs, stress testing of our business. And so like I'm in my area, just because like we work with capital markets, finance and servicing, like you'll need a lot of financial knowledge. I would say on Sarah's team or Anil's team, definitely not as much. On Sarah's team, which is more marketing, lead generation, and ways that we like engage clients through the kind of top of the funnel of our process. Everybody should have a basic understanding of how our business works, which is in the financial industry, obviously. But I don't think Sarah's team members need to know about the secondary mortgage market and how bonds are traded, or the role of a government-sponsored enterprise, in selling a loan. So it really depends on your domain.
So
I think just going off from what James said, like having a broad knowledge about how the mortgage industry works is definitely beneficial. But like again, if you have an open mind, well, like once you're onboarded and you pick up what the business does, you can provide more of an impact in your capacity as a data scientist, as an engineer. If you understand how the business works, you will be able to figure out where's the gap in the business. So I think on a team to team basis, there's some different prerequisites, but like once you're onboarded in general and you can gather an understanding of what our business does and how our business works, it would really benefit you.
Yeah, I came in without much of an understanding of how mortgages work. And it is valuable to be able to understand the business so that you can make, a bigger impact. But the understanding coming in is not nearly as important as the, curiosity and the willingness to learn how it works once you're there.
We have a couple more questions that have come in. So the first question I get fairly frequently, and that is, are there positions that are available to students finishing undergrad? And how possible is it to get a degree with a bachelor's in data science? And if you can answer this both for Quicken, and then if you have experience at previous, I think most of you have experience at other companies or other work locations, if you could just talk a little bit about your knowledge of if there is a market for undergraduate students.
So I can speak to that a little bit. I came out of undergrad with a fairly strong mathematical background and like a pretty solid understanding of machine learning techniques. Because of my major reminder was data mining and information analysis, like started as a theoretical math major. went to go be a data analyst, business analyst, data scientist at a small company. And while I was there, I kind of had this realization that like it's really hard to do data science at scale at a small company whose like main priority is to keep the lights on rather than their job isn't data science, their job is something else. So I started speaking with a couple of my mentors in the area who all had like data science positions or were data science leaders at other companies and startups in the area. And I ended up interviewing at a few of them, and they would look at my case studies and they were like, honestly, like you're good, but like you would come and work for us and we would have you be our data cleaner. Like you won't do the type of work that you think you're going to come in to do because you don't have enough experience and enough, just honestly, you haven't thought about this problem enough to like think about it in the same critical way that we expect these problems to be attacked. I think data science as an undergrad major is really wonderful. And if you have internship experience, it might be a different conversation. But when I was graduating, like I personally did not have the chops coming out of undergrad. And I can say that once I went to grad school and I spent another nearly 2 years focusing specifically on data science, you realize how much of your time in undergrad is spent in prerequisites or undergrad classes or gen eds or all of these other things that are so important to making you a well-rounded employee or candidate for anything, but it may not help you do a specific data science job. My recommendation for everyone is always to get a little bit of work experience before you decide to go to grad school. I think that's like really helpful in deciding if you want to make that investment. But that being said, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it is going to be very difficult. And I would start by looking for internships or research opportunities that help you think more critically as a data scientist while you're an undergrad if you're preparing for the job market afterwards.
Yeah, I think building off on what Sarah said, I don't currently have my master's degree and I got into the data science team without a master's degree, but that's also because I transitioned like from another team that didn't really require a master's degree. Every company has different requirements, right? Like a company would probably look for a more experienced data scientist with a master's degree for like a big problem, or a company might not necessarily have that minimum requirement. So it's really hard to generalize like whether you absolutely need it or not. However, if you don't have your master's degree, then I would suggest maybe you might not get a job as like a deep learning researcher at a big company, but you could also like work in analysis, or you could work in like data cleaning, which are all like important aspects of the data science domain as a whole. So if you have like some experience going forward, it will be like a much smoother transition into what you want to do like longer term. So like grab whatever opportunity is presented to you. Don't look at, okay, I need to get a master's or I need to get a PhD. Maybe if that's something that you're passionate about, you do it. But I would say try to get an opportunity to do stuff. Like if you feel like you need to build up on your skills, find a problem and start practicing. Find someone from the industry who can mentor you and kind of guide you into what how do you approach this problem? How do you critically think about this problem, and how you can develop your skills and break into the industry.
I will also just chime in and say from my experience, not in data science, but just in going back to grad school after, as Sarah mentioned, going back to grad school after working for quite some time, there was also a huge benefit for me of my employer paying for 75% of my graduate degree. And so that's just another factor to keep in mind. Like, yes, you're investing time and you're investing in developing skills, but it also is a huge financial investment. So just something to keep in mind that, you know, as you consider your path, it might be part of the conversation as you look for jobs, what the tuition remission or tuition reimbursement policy is, or what the benefit is.
Just wanted to chime in about other organizations outside of Quicken Loans. I think one thing to keep in mind too is that because as I think a field, data science is still relatively not mature, you'll find organizations bringing in data scientists or bringing in and trying to fill a data scientist role. And it can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different places. And we kind of touched on this with the Quicken Loans interview process being very technical. But just from my experience coming from an organization that a lot of companies that I worked with had data scientists that were doing, they would call them a data scientist, but they weren't really doing true data science. They were doing more analysis, they were doing more coding and cleaning, and more kind of BI type work. And it's just, I think, a fact of it's not a super mature industry and it's not a super mature field. So it can mean a lot of different things. So I think that is also another benefit of having an internship, kind of figuring out what it is you want and what the work environment is like in a place that you're going to know, are you going to do the thing that you want to be doing?
I've seen quite a lot of positions come through that are data analyst positions that are titled data scientist. I think that's probably from where I sit, one of the most frequent, not mix-ups, but interesting labels. Okay, so oh, sorry, go ahead.
And there can be variation within organizations. The previous place that I worked, I was a data scientist in one part, and then a data scientist 3 rows over did all of his work in Excel, and I was doing everything in PySpark. One of my favorite questions to ask while I'm interning is, tell me the first 3 projects you think I would do if I was hired by you. I think that gives you like a very good idea of the type of work they'd expect you to do every day. And then you can kind of go from there.
That's a great question. I love that. Next question is similar to the undergrad versus master's, but do you look for, when you're hiring candidates, says, does Quicken ever bring on candidates with a purely academic or research background, meaning no industry experience? So what level of engagement with industry are you looking for?
All the time. I can think of, yeah, I mean, some of our best, some of our strongest team members just come straight out of a PhD program. Like the industry experience, I mean, you can't kind of like, I need a job to get experience, but I need experience to get a job. Like if you can demonstrate a strong technical proficiency, but also enough curiosity that you can like pick up like how the industry works, like that's something we teach. So we don't always expect industry experience.
I have just a few minutes left. Do we have any last minute questions for the Quicken Loans team? And then similarly, I'll ask if the Quicken Loans team has any last minute thoughts, just comments that have come to mind during our conversation. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this event. I learned a ton. I'm half convinced to start applying at Quicken, but no, I love my job. But no, this has been really informative and really great. We'll share the video out, and also just want to put one last plug and reminder in to keep an eye on your email for the data challenge announcement and registration form that will be coming your way very soon. And then keep in touch if you have questions or ideas for future events, similar career type events. Always feel free to reach out to me and let me know. So thank you, Quicken team, for being here.
Thank you, Trisha, for setting this up. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. All right.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.